Hey there, we're the West Lafayette Pirates and welcome to the show. We're here to share our thoughts on Northwestern athletics and college sports with thoughts and analysis from the visceral to the statistical. We run our tailgate with the red pirate flag flying high above as we give no quarter, especially the fourth. I'm Sam Walter.
I'm John Lacombe.
And I'm Eric Scouspo.
Hopefully, Scuzz, you managed to dig yourself out from that massive amount of snow that hit Cincinnati this week. Hopefully all's well down there.
Yeah, I guess I've been training my whole life for 2 feet of snow to hit. It wasn't 2 feet. It just felt like 2 feet. But I tell you what, if that plow comes through and like undoes the hard work I've put into the end of my driveway one more time, I might lose it. It's like the most galling thing.
But would it gall you as much as the Penn State officiating?
No, it would not.
No. There was
yeah.
Like
we briefly mentioned this on our last episode, but we really got to get into this. It's been over a week or almost a week now, and God damn, that was brutal.
We have two hoops games to talk about, right? So we've got that game, and then we played
the Purdue game
on Sunday.
We'll get to the Purdue game. I really think a lot of that had to do with just the coming off of the Penn State game, just the emotions, and also traveling and then coming home and then going back out with the weather. I mean,
here's hoping that's true. I mean, I guess it's the start of Big Ten season. Northwestern has lost 2 games to start here. Neither one of them gives me great heart palpitations. We'll get into the depths of these 2 games more. That I know everybody wants us to do that, but at a high level, I can't say that I'm concerned or anxious right now. I feel like this team has got opportunity in front of them, and there's some bright spots and there's some dull spots, but this feels like the Northwestern basketball of it all that we've been experiencing for a long time. And once again, it appears in the Big Ten it's extremely difficult to win on the road, and the Zebras have something to do with that.
100%. I mean, I think we were talking, Sam, you and I were talking a little while ago about this is 2 road games, and it's 2 road L's back to back. Neither of those teams has lost at home. And that's, sucks to be in the Big Ten, but when you have games like that, there are these blowout losses, and I was reading Lou Vaquer made the point that it's like Illinois handed us one of these last season in Illinois.
Yeah, that's right.
And these are lurking out there in conference play, and ain't no one immune to it in these brutal conference games. I mean, as we're recording right now, Tennessee, the number 1 team in the nation, just got shellacked on the road against Florida. And
73-43. Oh my God.
Yeah, these games are just out there, right? I mean, no one's immune to it in the best conferences in the country, and of course the Big Ten is arguably as brutal as it gets right now. But what you don't hope, just like Scuzz said, is in a game where you're on the road in an incredibly difficult environment like Penn State, and you bring not a perfect game, but in some aspects really strong basketball, and then to be done in by a call late is the last thing that you want. To be done in by a horrific call late in a game where you've already been jobbed by the officials all game long.
Yeah, I was going to say one horrific call.
Right.
I mean, there were countless horrific calls.
Well, there were multiple. I mean, there was one horrific call, and then a reversal of that call, and then a non-call in rapid succession to screw Northwestern over. I think if you lip read, Chris Collins basically told the ref that cost me the effing game.
Right. And he was very democratic. Collins, I think, he is well aware that he has earned a reputation. And I wouldn't say that this is 100% deserved. It's just there happened to have been a couple high-profile moments, right? Notably like Purdue last year.
After he walked out against Purdue, I felt like Northwestern got slapped by the refs the next couple games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you are seeing the result, him acting in accordance of what he experienced last year on that front.
Right. Which, again, it's like no one wants to be the fan base or the coach who complains about officiating all the time. But, this was horrific. As we talked, it was a situation where if Northwestern, basically in the closing moments, the closing possessions, if Northwestern, you can look at the clip Northwestern was making free throws at, and if Northwestern had only shot 20 less free throws than Penn State, that would have been enough for the game to be even. It's ludicrous. I mean, the gap was, there is no explanation for it. And Collins
Penn State shot more free throws than they shot field goals.
Yeah.
Right.
Attempts.
I mean, the one, so no doubt, and the announcers even called this out a couple times. They were calling contact on one end of the floor and not on the other. That being said, I think that the fouls that you can't quibble with are the way, like Northwestern did not do a good job guarding Ace Baldwin. Yeah. And our guards, I mean, they called this out on the broadcast as well. Our guards were like right up on him which is pretty tough way to guard Ace Baldwin. Or because I think the announcers were saying like, he's not going to shoot it from outside. You don't need to be that close on him. Like sink a little bit so you've got some ability to adjust when he drives, etc. And then we'd be right up on him, and the moment he would try to make a move, we'd grab him. And so like he hit one field goal and then shot a ungodly number of free throws. His stat line is hysterical because he scored 17 points on one field goal and 15 free throws.
Right.
A lot of those free throws were legitimate. The problem is that Northwestern got 0 calls at the other end of the floor, particularly Brooks Barnheiser, whose entire game is getting down low and then drawing contact. And there were so many examples where he got hacked or hit or whatever. And I mean, he's 8 for 16. At least half of those misses he got fouled on.
Right. And that's and you have him, but then you have Martinelli too, who made less so in the game. But Martinelli is a guy who, like, there was a quote unquote conversation forever, but like what is his position, right? He's shooting 50+% from the field right now. Like, he might as well be a 5 with like the field goal percentage he's putting up, because these guys go in and bang, and that's where they get their buckets, right? And then to have there be that much of a disparity. And Collins, as delicately as he could, fully aware of everything Scuzz is talking about relative to the refs, tried to message that after the game. But
the thing that really killed the Cats is, I mean, they're calling, a couple brutal calls on Justin Mullins. Really took him out of the game in the second half. His defense has been a hallmark for Northwestern these last few games. Leach got into foul trouble early. Barry got into foul trouble early. This gave an opportunity for Sharavino to play a bit, who then also got into foul trouble. It was like, it put the Cats really on the back foot from a rotation standpoint. The fact that they were in this game, the fact that they tied this game, let's call a spade a spade. They tied this game with 6 seconds to play and then had it taken away from them, is a real testament to the mettle and the grit of this group.
Right. And that's the thing, is like, I think we're very familiar now. There have been a couple games on both sides. You could look at, some of the brutal losses, but of course, like the Illinois win being a great example, right? And be like, exactly, like this team on mettle and toughness, an imperfect team drags itself right into the heart of all of these difficult games. And it is, and this is the lens where it's like, there's coulda, woulda, shoulda, like there's no going back at it. It just is what it is. There is an alternate universe where Northwestern's 14-1 right now. And you could argue further that there's an alternate universe where Northwestern should be 13-2 right now. And it's like, you look at the way that the Butler game, the Iowa game, and the Penn State game went down. And I mean, like, Iowa, like a miracle buzzer beater, what are you going to do? But we know about the thing, that went down at the end of the Butler game. And of course, we know about everything that went down in the Penn State game. And
well, I just want to, that being said, even if we tie it up with 6 seconds left, there's no guarantee that we win the game from there.
It's
but
not
like,
a win.
It's not like it was a buzzer beater that went the other way, but it's still, the game is tied, and you got to defend for 6 seconds, which is 5.5 more seconds than we needed to guard against Iowa. But still, to not even get that opportunity and then just have the abysmal non-call on
shoving Nicholson out of bounds. Yeah,
exactly. Right. Like that's just ridiculous.
And I think like that's the big part of it too, because again, it's like we said, everyone knows there have been 4 brutal losses for this team, and they've all been really close games. And whether
3 brutal losses. Well, no, you're right. You're right, because we're 10-5 now after the Purdue game.
Well, and the Dayton,
you have the math right. Sorry.
The Dayton one got away from us, and of course, like we gave all that away. But I mean, like we had a huge lead we shouldn't have relinquished in that game. But it is what it is, right? I mean, here we sit at 10-5, and I mean, Sam, you and I before the pod, I mean, are looking down the stretch at the schedule. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about Purdue first, but it's like there ain't no letting up. It never lets up, ever, at any point, all the way until the end of the season. And it's like every win, the losses are brutal and you don't get them back, and it just is what it is. I think the flip side is right, that this is a really good team that, took a brutal loss they didn't deserve to take on the road against Penn State, and then got just shellacked against Purdue, and we still expect them to bounce back. But I mean, with that said, I mean, I know, because you watched a lot more of the Purdue game than either of us did, but I guess if there's one thing that would worry me a little bit, it's just, this team has 2 scorers a lot of times, it seems like. And if teams like Purdue are able to clamp down on us, it does seem like we run into some real problems.
I mean, this team kind of only had 2 scorers for a lot of last year too. I mean, Brooks started to emerge, and then by the time Barry got knocked out with injury, you could say there were 3 right at the apex of last year's team with Boo,
right, yeah.
Brooks, and Barry, and I guess it's kind of like that Penn State game, right? At like 7 things should have gone differently, and Northwestern was overall probably the better team and should have won that game. One of the things that stands out so much about this team versus last year Northwestern was the best 3-point shooting team in the Big Ten. Mm-hmm. And this year they are not. And
not so much, yeah.
You can afford to go 6 of 22 from 3 against a Penn State team that shoots 4 of 15. You cannot go 7 of 25 against a Purdue team that shoots 8 of 20. Like up against teams that can shoot 40% from 3, we have no answer. And that is concerning, because it's not just that we only have 2 scorers, it's that they are mid-range scorers. And even when you incorporate Leach and when you incorporate the centers, one of the things that stood out to me in this Purdue game, so first and foremost, Purdue just they couldn't miss in the first half. They could not miss. And yes, we had a couple of bad turnovers, but all in all, we were generating some good shots on our end. There was certainly some some of the same foul stuff going the other, like again, Brooks drawing contact, not getting the calls. Very, very frustrating in the moment, but Purdue just couldn't miss. Braden Smith was unconscious, which sucks because I really can't stand that guy.
Yeah, right.
But so in that moment, I mean, this is where Boo Buie last year was such a stopper for us, and Barry could work off of that. And then this year, Brooks and Martinelli are an incredible pair, and they work well together, and you can do some things off of it. Like Brooks has been finding Nicholson for some dunks. You've got, Leach has got some good contributions, and then finding the range from 3-point though has just really been the backbreaker in my opinion. And a lot of it is that Ty Barry just does not look like himself. And he had an incredible game against Northeastern 2 games ago. He was not great against Penn State. 1 of 6 from 3, 1 of 6 from the field, only played 14 minutes, of course, foul trouble, etc.
Yeah.
But then an opportunity here against Purdue, and 0 for 3 from the field. 1 3-pointer missed, 0 points. ended up not playing much of the game, and I wonder if that's just a rest situation, whereas this game was getting away from them. They just said, you know what, let's give some of the young guys some run. Angelo Sciarvino needs to play more.
He does, absolutely.
He's our best 3-point shooter right now. Leach can get going. He's a little streaky. Mullins has a moment or two every now and again. When Barry is on, he's looked really good, and he's had a couple of games when he's been really on. That Iowa game, that Northeastern game. But I really think Sciarvino needs to see the floor more often, and Wyndham has had moments from three as well. I just feel like there's no formula that works for this team unless you surround Brooks and Martinelli more often with shooters. And I realize that puts some pressure on the defensive side, but like I don't know what other answers there are right now.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like we've talked from the beginning about like the potential of Sciarvino and Wyndham. Like that was obvious from the very beginning. Like those are special players. And again, Wyndham is still raw, but there's a mountain of future for both of these guys. And of course, yeah, you saw Sciarvino show it out, especially against Purdue. But right, I mean,
they both went 2 of 4 from 3 and 3 of 5 from the field against Penn State because they were both forced into a lot of play with the foul trouble up front. And seeing them come in this game, Wyndham only had 4 points, but Sciarvino had 19 points in 21 minutes.
Right.
He was 8 of 14 from the field. Like this is like these guys have to see the field, see the floor more regularly, and maybe they will. Maybe I'm calling out a problem from a month ago that they've already gotten to the point where we're going to be seeing them more regularly. But it felt to me like I didn't see them in the Penn State game until that was forced because of foul trouble, and then this game they got on the floor because it was not a close game. If this was 21-20 at half, are we really getting Sciarvino for most of the second half? I don't think so.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
No,
right. That's
and
true.
I think that's a miss. I really think that's a miss right now from the staff.
It is a bummer though. I mean, it's wild. Brooks is playing with 2 missing front teeth right now.
Oh my God! And then he took another shot.
And
knocked the bridge out.
And the guy was in a boot for the entire late summer and fall, right? And Northwestern Nation was perseverating over it nonstop. And as Scuzz already outlined, what Ty Berry's dealing with is clearly the thing right now, right? I mean, I don't think Ty's 100%, and it's just funny because like to your point, like. An incandescent game from him in any game right now makes all the difference in the world for all of the obvious reasons. And we've all seen so many incandescent Ty Berry games over the years. I mean, he's never been the primary scorer, but he has been capable of monster games, and not just monster games, but he's played so many huge basketball games in huge moments. And you hope that he rounds into shape where, like, particularly with his 3-point shooting, he can become that missing piece, because otherwise, right, it's going to have to be the young guys, and it's going to have to be someone like Sciarvino. And look, I mean, Purdue's famously an awesome defensive basketball team, and they had a plan and they knew what to do, and aided by us not making some shots, and they were in Mackey Arena. And that's not to say it's going to get a heck of a lot easier, but you are going to continue to get awesome basketball from this team. And we've mentioned his name already a bunch, but the fact that he had a bad game against Purdue should not take away in any way from the fact that Brooks is, let's put it this way, the Wooden Watch list was announced, 25 guys, and I was super pissed Brooks wasn't on this list. I don't know how many guys are out there averaging 19, 10, 5, 3, and 1 per game. What doesn't he do? He's everywhere, doing all things all the time. None of us would pick a better two-way player in the nation, let alone the Big Ten. And again, like, he ought to be on the Wooden Watch list strictly for his, like, just by point of reference. Rutgers has 2 of those 25 players. Both of them were 2 of the top 3 recruits in the nation coming into this season, and Rutgers is 8-7 right now. So perhaps a little more latitude to a guy like Brooks, who's been just absolutely putting it in for a team for a super long time and is stuffing the box score in every category. But I digress. In any case, you have him, you have Nicky Buckets. I mean, and you like great contributions from a bunch of guys and a bunch of guys who are really battle tested. And if Barry rounds into form, and I know it's a big if, but you're going to see great basketball from this team. And the flip side is there are just no layups. It's all super tough. And I think a lot of people would say right now that this is a team that purely on toughness and pedigree and will to win is better than the 10-5 record. And on the flip side, it's like, you know, there's that's does you nothing in the Big Ten. It's just, it continues to be super brutal, and you hope that we'll start getting a couple of these breaks in these tough games.
The break that comes is that 6 of the next 8 games are at home.
Sure,
Right.
but you know they're against Michigan State number 16. You got Maryland, who's having a
Michigan
what?
State's the only one of those 6 teams that's ranked right now that's coming to West Ryan.
Michigan. Oh, that's coming to okay.
Oh, yeah.
So six
Still
of the
got
next
games
8. 6 of the next 8 at home, and only one of those is a ranked opponent.
And
Okay.
hey, right? We should think in positive frame of mind, right? I mean, this team beat a ranked Illinois team at home, and
now has to go back to
fair
go to
I mean,
Champaign.
and that's the thing. It's like, but I mean, grabbing a famous home win against Michigan State is a great way of righting the ship, and there ain't nothing but opportunity on this schedule, opportunity for big wins, because and you're right, and the home court makes a huge difference, right? Northwestern had, how many I'm looking right now, like the Cats have been unbelievable at home this year. And have we lost at home? I don't think so, right?
No, because the
No.
Butler game was in the tournament, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it was
So
in
that a
Arizona,
tourney
yeah.
game.
So we are also undefeated at home, just like Purdue and Penn State.
right.
And I was at the Northeastern game, and there were no students there, but the place was still hopping. Like it was a really, really good crowd for like a holiday game against a Northeastern team that no one had any idea about. And it was a really, really solid crowd. Now you add the students back into the mix here.
And that it's Michigan State, Maryland, and Indiana in a row. I mean, it's going to be a madhouse.
Well, this is where
and the Michigan State game is a Gus Johnson game.
oh boy,
That's right. That's right.
well, this is where we all come in, right? Us, you, all the listeners, like get to West Ryan. Like we've talked about it. We've all seen it in action the last 2 seasons. That building, the crowd has an effect on the game. It has an effect on the players. We can influence the fortunes of this team with our voices, our presence, our support, etc. So get out to Welsh Ryan, make it the toughest 94 feet in the Big Ten, and let's see what these guys can do over the next 8 games.
Yeah, work is definitely cut out. You got a lot of work to do, but there is definitely. I mean, there is enough talent on here to get it done. So, let's take care of Michigan State on Sunday and go from there.
Right. I mean, I guess in my head I have like the idea of like the soap opera of this season in terms of just like the highs and lows and the expectations and the way that the run that this team is on over the past couple of years is so tied up with, the hopes and dreams of all Northwestern fans and everything. And for me, there's something at the core of this that is like, after 2 miraculous seasons and sitting where we are right now, in a season where so many things have not gone the way we wish they could, there's no one who doubts that this is an unbelievably tough as nails basketball team with really good basketball players on it. And it's like, that is beyond a doubt. There's no one who's like, I'll go to war with the core group on this team like every day. Brooks is as good as any player in this conference. Buckets can go into the paint and get you a bucket at the biggest times. And that is at the core of this. And we're going to see how it plays out. But I kind of buoy myself knowing that like after those 2 unbelievable years that we've seen, we're 15 games into the following season after those 2 seasons. And I feel really strong about all the pieces on this team and just really proud that we get to watch this team play every week.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like I say, it's a lot of home games coming up. So hopefully we can maybe steal 1 or 2 on the road, take care of business in our own barn. And, we'll revisit hopefully next week, the week after, and things, hopefully the narrative will have changed a little bit. It's tough coming off those last 2 games. and then having this whole week off basically to kind of stew on that. But
they probably need the time. I think they need the time to get back on the horse.
And again, as Scuzz said, if you're a Northwestern fan or a Northwestern student listening to this right now, you should be stewing all week too, and then you should get your ass to Welsh Ryan.
Take it out on the opposing team. Yeah,
exactly.
While you're there, look for us. We're not going to be at all these games, but what are we? Section 218.
Yes.
I think that's right. I'm hoping to make it up for one of these. I'm not sure it's going to happen this early in the season. I am tentatively planning to be at that Minnesota game in late February at Minnesota. If anyone in the frozen tundra is going to be finding themselves at Williams Arena, give me a shout. But otherwise, come by, say hi, and go Cats.
Speaking of frozen tundra, we finished recording last week's episode where we talked a lot of transfer portal.
This is another great pivot from you, Sam.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We talked a lot of transfer portal, and then, of course, I'm sitting there editing the show the next day, and we get news from the frozen tundra that a couple more players have come out of the transfer portal. We are tapping back into South Dakota State. There was some worry that Christian Smith might leave Northwestern to go back to coach at SDSU. He is not. He's staying here, and we've got a couple guys coming in who are very familiar with Zach Lujan and very familiar with this offense and are really, really good. Wide receiver Griffin Wild comes in, and then just to put a bow on it, All-American offensive lineman Evan Bjornson comes in. Wow.
I mean, it can't be any better. I mean, on one hand, you feel bad. SDSU had a coaching change, and that's why Christian Smith at least went and interviewed for that job. But SDSU had a coaching change, and when you're a top FCS program, you can be that good. And they had a coaching change, and they just had a million guys go into the portal. And that's the area of the transfer portal, because a lot of those guys, you've got guys who have proven themselves at the highest level of FCS and now know they're FBS grade football players. And dang, ain't it good to have some strong SDSU connections when that happens. And to have finally gotten your shit together for the winter portal like we've talked about. And the fact that Northwestern could not have climbed on the horse more than we have during this winter portal. But, Wild, we talked about it because we made a couple references to SDSU during the season when we were making some Jack Lujan, Mark Gronowski comparisons. Mark Gronowski, who we'll come to later in the pod. But for a couple of reasons, we brought up the way that SDSU's offense has been running this season and how run heavy it is. Their entire pass offense ran through Griffin Wild. I'm not even exaggerating. You can pull up their receiving stats. He had 1,200 receiving yards. I think the next closest wide receiver had 300. He caught all of their passes. And not just
Gronowski completed 206 passes. He caught 71 of them, but he was a number one with a bullet target.
Right. And and the thing is, it's not just, and this is the other piece too. The short of it is, there ain't a better kind of receiver for us to be acquiring for what we're going to be trying to do than Griffin Wild. Because to Scuzz's point, yes, he only had 71 catches. 16.4 yards a catch. It's deep balls. It's hammer you on the ground.
That's a lot of receptions. I'm not saying he didn't have a lot of receptions. No. I just he was less than half of the total team receptions.
Right, but their offense is hammer you on the ground, hammer you on the ground, hammer you on the ground, bomb to this guy, again and again and again.
You say bomb to this guy? I wonder if we have a quarterback who likes to throw deep.
If only we had one of the very best deep ball quarterbacks coming into this school. Yes, we absolutely do in Preston Stone, which, I put up a video of him last week right around the same time we got Griffin Wild. That was just, I wanted to show you what 20 Preston Stone deep balls look like, because he throws these balls and then the camera's just like, where'd it go? and then you just see the camera pivot while the thing goes like 40 yards downfield. And then you pull in a receiver like this who's averaging 16.4 yards a catch, who again, he is a fit. He's played for Lujan. Lujan knows exactly what he's getting, and Lujan knows exactly the kind of offense he wants to use him in. So yeah, and he's big, 6'2" and built. It's like part of you wants to whisper Cooper Kupp. Look, I'm just saying there's like a lot of similarities. I'm not saying that, but this is the kind of big-bodied, super productive FCS receiver where you don't know what his ceiling is, and we're going to get a chance to find out.
You mentioned Bart Gronowski.
Well, real quick.
Well, hold on.
Yeah.
We got to talk guard.
You're absolutely right.
I'm like literally,
Yep. Sorry.
That was the thing, because the wild news happened, and we're all over the moon for that. And then an hour later, we find out that arguably our biggest position of need, guard, right? Interior line, with all the injuries Northwestern has had, losing Josh Thompson to LSU, and then pulling in an FCS All-American at guard. Incredible, from the same school, SDSU. And I believe someone said he's either going into his 6th or 7th year.
7th year.
Yeah.
7th year. He started his last 3 years for SDSU. First team All-Missouri Valley, second team All-America in 2024.
Right. This guy, basically, do the math. The amount of football games this guy has started is ludicrous. All the playoff games, you're getting a really old, experienced player who's played a ton of big-time football. And, this is a plug-and-play player and a huge get. Yeah, All-American. So we were just over the moon. I mean, these are two players who will make massive contributions to Northwestern football with a massive pedigree, and we picked them up in the span of an hour. Yeah, right, like to Sam's point, right after we recorded, as you do. But go ahead.
Is Bierstein? I want to say Bierstein.
Yeah, I know, right?
Bjornson. Pardon me for going back to the well of optimism we had at the beginning of the season, but everything that we outlined about what we see in Lujan's offense and what it can be and how it predicates itself on heavy power running up the gut on the backs of the guards, a duo type scheme. Bjornson is like built for this in a lab, and it's what we were so excited about with Nick Herzog in that first game. It's what we were excited about with Josh Thompson at guard. This is a guy that ran that system with Lujan that can help communicate and engage on the offensive line, etc. There's a really interesting nugget about how way back when he was being recruited, almost went not to San Diego State, and it was because he was being recruited by Bill O'Boyle to play offensive line somewhere else. And that connection...
Kent State, I believe, right?
Was it Kent State? Wherever it was, that connection is part of what, brought this home this time around. And so it just he kind of ties the whole room together when you think about all the different connections and the experience and the pedigree. And I don't want to put a captaincy on this guy's chest or anything like that, but you anticipate him being able to be a leader and a voice in that room where you've had some seniors leaving, you've got some turnover. I'm not suggesting that they need a voice. I'm just, we have felt like this offensive line needs some nastiness and some assertiveness. And I think well, obviously you won't know until you see it on the field next fall, but all the boxes are checked here in both the tangible and intangibles.
Right. And multiple people have you furiously knock wood when you make statements like this. But one of the things that have been brought up by us, but by other people online too, is if you look at a hypothetical starting lineup right now, you have three players who've earned some sort of all conference recognition in at left tackle, right tackle, and we assume right guard. But then you have two other players too, in Nick Herzog and Jack Bailey, who the coaches really like. Of course, Bailey's relationship with O'Boyle, but we know when we talked about this, how surprised we all were to see Herzog in there at the start of last season, and how much of an indicator it was on the fact that he fit a type and a profile of a guard that they really, really liked. And then, of course, Herzog and Bailey both got hurt, and that's the big X factor. There's two guys both coming off of injury. But those are two players who really like, and you can look and be like, a hypothetical day one starting five right now, again, furiously knocking wood, looks pretty good right now. There's still a lot more work to be done, and you're always hoping for luck, and for the injury situation to work out for everybody. But to be able to even say something like that, again, speaks to just how flipping well. I mean, we were over the moon about this winter portal before these two guys come in. So yeah, you can't ask for anything better than this.
If you or a loved one is seriously injured by someone else's negligence, hire Kent Simpson of the Simpson Law Group. After over a decade prosecuting murder cases in Chicago, Simpson opened his own firm focused on wrongful death and personal injury cases. He specializes in car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and other transportation accidents, as well as construction accidents, medical negligence, slip and falls, product liability, and more. Millions recovered for clients. No fee unless he wins. The Simpson Law Group. Compassion, empathy, and vigorous advocacy. Go to simpsonlawgroup.com or call 312-332-2107 for a free consultation, and go Cats. We mentioned Mark Gronowski, and even from like last year when Zach Lujan came to Northwestern, there was rumblings, would Gronowski follow? He didn't. He stayed at SDSU, and now this year he announces he's going into the portal. We've already signed Preston Stone. Stone is in. He's delivered. So it was like, wait, do we want to do? No, we don't. No. We don't want to bring in two guys. That's ridiculous. So it was really fascinating to see today, on Tuesday the 7th, that he commits to Iowa.
Let's put it this way. When we first hired Zach Lujan last year, a ton of people took the leap of thinking Brendan Sullivan's going to be competing with Mark Gronowski for a quarterback job at Northwestern in 2024. Well, it's going to be happening at Iowa in 2025, which is pretty crazy. And Sullivan, I think, Scuzz, you were saying he's already said like he's locked in, like he plans to compete for the job. So
well, he said that before the bowl game. So I assume nothing's changed, but there is an irony there.
Right. And I mean,
plus you consider like the freshman in the room.
Right. Ryan Fitzgerald.
One Ryan Fitzgerald, son of Pat Fitzgerald.
It's wild. And all of these Northwestern, would-be's, whatever, etc., connections, to say the least, are all going to be swirling at Iowa. It's crazy. And of course, we would all be wringing our hands over this if Northwestern hadn't climbed on the frickin' horse and gotten Preston Stone as soon as he finished playing for SMU this season. So, which has a real way of taking some of the sting out of that. But I mean, it's wild because, again, I think Stone and Gronowski are not similar football players in a lot of ways. I mean, in terms of like the system, and we mentioned the Griffin Wild, like catching a lot of deep balls, but Gronowski's a lot more of a runner. I think a lot more of a creator, at least traditionally. And whereas, I mean, as we've said many times, like Preston Stone it's just an NFL arm. Like he's an NFL arm trying to throw NFL grade deep balls all game. And so it's interesting because, I mean, now Gronowski, at least for this season, is going to play FBS football. He is going to play in the Big Ten, but it's not going to be for Northwestern. And, we have the good fortune of not having to be as wistful about that as we might have been once.
Someone get me the tell-all book where they interview Gronowski and Sullivan and everyone else. Right. I just there's a and maybe it's as simple as something that I think it makes a ton of sense that Gronowski wanted to stay at SDSU and take another shot. at a title, etc., that he was more comfortable there. It's possible he didn't get a good indication from Northwestern on making the cut for transfer wise. Maybe he wanted to come in at winter quarter and it wasn't possible. We've heard from educators that transferring with 1 year left on your degree is really hard pill for a school to swallow. That's not a Northwestern thing. That's an all schools thing. And so maybe it just was not in the cards for some reason for him to come last year. And then, 1 year removed, and
it could be simple as order of operations too, right? Like maybe if we hadn't gotten Preston Stone, Gronowski does come here. Like you do know, it's hard to know, but right. I mean, it is. You're right. Like to have all the answers. Like if only.
Yeah. At least we can watch that all that drama from afar. We don't play Iowa this year.
That's good.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah. It's good. And I mean,
although I'm going to be kicking myself if they look bad, but getting a break from Iowa for the first time in
forever,
better part of a decade. It's kind of like not playing Nebraska last year was like a nice little respite.
We haven't gone through the 2025 schedule, have we? And
well, hold on.
Now may not be the time for it, but go ahead.
Yeah, before we shift, I think it's really important to know. Like, this is not sour grapes on any of our parts about Mark Gronowski.
No.
This is I think go back and listen to how effusive we were in our praise for Preston Stone and what we think can be possible with him coming in this next year. We're ecstatic for what Stone can bring to the table, and this is just more trying to understand the nature of the last 12 months, if you will, and then there's certainly some irony in the quarterback room in Iowa.
Yeah, and I will say this, right? Like this certainly isn't the wrong time to be like. This certainly is the wrong time to be crying over Zach Lujan's ability to use his connections at SDSU to bring in quality players, because it's been a pretty strong week.
Yeah,
for sure.
We didn't get their quarterback. We got their best wide receiver and their best interior lineman. I'm not complaining.
Not at all.
By the way, one is a grad transfer, and the other is only 2 years into his college degree. So there's an interesting calculus here that it's a very behind the scenes element to how all this transfer stuff works, particularly with Northwestern, how it works. But it's the sort of thing like you got to dig a bit to figure out where some of these kids are in their path, as opposed to, here's all the names in the portal. Who's the best one? Let's go get them.
Right. Like I was mentioning, I don't want to spend much time on it, but the schedule came out. The 2025 schedule came out, and just want to run through it real quick. Like I said, don't want to spend too much time on it. I do want to, we do want to talk about the college football playoff semifinals here in just a sec. But interesting schedule and very interesting timing. So we opened the season August 30th at Tulane in New Orleans. There is definitely some chatter among the three of us of potentially making a trip down south.
I want to do that. I want to do that so bad.
Me too.
I know. We have someone who shan't be named other than to say that he lives in northern Mississippi, and his name's Chris Giannini, who's been trying to wave off that end of August brutal Louisiana weather. We get it. We totally understand, but that may be a bullet that we just have to bite. We're gonna see.
Hey, it's 20 degrees outside in Chicago right now.
Amen.
I'm
not
okay.
A hard sell.
Yeah, not at all. So our home opener is against Western Illinois, and then we get Oregon on the lake.
Oof.
Yep. Awesome.
That's just so interesting and really, really cool.
Theron Johnson comes back.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Bye week, then UCLA on the lake, and then Louisiana Monroe comes in on October 4th. Then we travel to Penn State. We're home for Purdue, at Nebraska, at Southern Cal, and then we get Michigan at Wrigley, Minnesota at Wrigley, and finish off the season at Illinois the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So that's the schedule. Obviously, we'll go into it more, but Yeah, Michigan and Minnesota back-to-back weeks at Wrigley is something. At Southern Cal is in November is great.
It's
at Penn State. But
having pulled in a big time quarterback and a lot of exciting new players has a way of rosying the outlook on all of it, right? I think one game that we were already circling, but I certainly didn't expect to be circling quite to this level, is that Tulane game. This is, if you're in SMU circles, which I feel like I practically am now after all this Preston Stone research that I've done, but Tulane is the one big one that Preston Stone didn't get to play in 2023 because that was the week after he got hurt. He played the entire season for them that season, and then in their regular season finale against Navy, he got hurt, and then Kevin Jennings got to play against Tulane in the AAC championship the following week. That is a game that will be personal to Preston Stone. He didn't get that shot at Tulane. He's going to really want that shot at Tulane, and that one it becomes a lot more fascinating now. But again, this is the way a lot of these games suddenly get a slightly more rosy tinge when you feel like you've brought in a big-time quarterback and a lot of really big-time players.
I don't know, even without that rosy tinge, like just on the not Northwestern of 2 years ago or of 3 years ago, and not Northwestern of this past season necessarily, although we certainly could held our own earlier on in the season before some of the big injuries, but there's seven very reasonable games on this schedule, and then 5 tough ones. That's, it's a pretty good place to be at an extremely, from a 30,000 foot standpoint before we know all the different rosters and machinations and who's starting where and when and how.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, just super early look. Like I said, the schedule came out and I realized we hadn't had a chance to talk about it. So just running it through, obviously we'll revisit it more as we get into the summer, as we do our team by team breakdowns. But just a little, something to mull over as we kind of approach the end of college football season. Only 3 games left. We've got the semifinals on Thursday night, Notre Dame and Penn State at the Orange Bowl. And then Friday night, Ohio State and Texas at the Cotton Bowl.
First thing about this, Sammy, you and I already were just talking about this a little bit earlier. The timing of these games to start with. I mean, they got to dodge the playoffs. They have to dodge the NFL playoffs, which put these on a Thursday and a Friday night, which is just, it's weird. Like, it's not something any of us are familiar with. And it's certainly going to be a wild situation. But, I mean, and of course, it all sets up for an absolutely ridiculous 4-day, is it 4-day or 5-day stretch of football? But
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. I mean, there's NFL playoffs Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and
so
college playoffs on Thursday and Friday. So
so absolutely wall to wall. In terms of the first game, I mean, we said Notre Dame is actually a slight favorite, right? 1.5 points.
1.5 points. Yeah, last I saw.
To me, that's all about Riley Leonard. And I know Notre Dame's a good football team. They have good pieces. I think Penn State has the better pieces just about everywhere, but quarterback. I would take Riley Leonard all day before Drew Aller. And the question is, how much of a difference will that make? And I find it fascinating. I mean, I feel like ever since midseason we've talked about this, and I know that this isn't necessarily the consensus view. I'm sorry. We have yet to see Drew Aller play really good football in really key moments of a game that really matters ever. And we've talked about really since I feel like in midseason that this is a team. Penn State's got it just about everywhere. And if they get it at the quarterback position, they're just about there. But the question is kind of how long can they ride this train? I believe that they're a better overall team than Notre Dame, but you could totally talk me into Riley Leonard just having the game of his life here.
Well, and I think what that specifically means is Riley Leonard running left and right and up the middle, and I mean that was the offense against Georgia. Now, is it Jeremiah Love Their running back is missed, like didn't play, like he was clearly injured against Georgia, didn't play a lot of that game. Supposedly he's on track to play against Penn State. That would take some pressure off of Riley Leonard, but we will see. Either way, this is a defense first game on both sides. I don't think Penn State has the receivers or the passing game to really threaten Notre Dame in the way that that Georgia did a couple times in their game, and it's gonna come down to Penn State's defense against Riley Leonard. And if
over under on Tyler Warren catches 10 plus 15.
Yeah.
Tyler Warren like trick plays.
Right. So I can tell you exactly how this game is going to go and how it's going to end. Riley Leonard's going to have an unbelievable game. Throw for 300 yards or throw for 250, run for another 100. Keep Notre Dame in it. Keep Notre Dame in it. The game is going to be tied late. Drew Aller will be leading Penn State down the field, maybe get even down to the Notre Dame 40, the Notre Dame 30, and fire a pass at Tyler Warren that Rod Hurd picks off and takes 60 yards back the other way for the game-winning touchdown for Notre Dame. That's what I'm calling right there. Rod Hurd wins it.
That'd be pretty freaking awesome.
Would love it. So that's Thursday. Friday, Texas, Ohio State. I mean, the way Ohio State's played the last couple of weeks.
Look, I'm not saying that the opposite could happen, and Lord knows it's not like I have any investment in this or have any particular desire to be right. I think Ohio State's going to paste them. I be wrong. Nothing would make me happier. I just feel like that team is the unstoppable juggernaut of college football right now. And Quinn Ewers is fine, but Texas is at their best when they can run the football, and I don't think they're going to be able to run the football that well against Ohio State. And I don't know, like that's the thing. I mean, may I be wrong? I have no desire to see Ohio State do well, but to me, they are just crushing everything right now.
I said this last week. I think Texas is a bit stouter on D than really anyone that Ohio State has played since Penn State. And I think that
Michigan?
I think they're stouter than Michigan. Was so depleted of guys in that game, which makes it even more crazy that Ohio State played so stupid and had such a horrible plan. I think you've got a big game coach in Steve Sarkisian that's kind of proven his mettle a bit over the last 18 months. And Dan Lanning had never been to the playoff before. Had lost those two games against Washington last year. Obviously beat Ohio State for the first time this year. I just think Texas is a different order of operations and a different level. Ohio State may well blow them out. I can't see Texas blowing out Ohio State. I can see the other three outcomes, right, of a close game either way. But I just think Texas's defense presents an obstacle that makes this a bit more of a battle than people are giving it credit for. I think there's a lot of recency bias on what we saw from Ohio State last week and the week before, but the Oregon defense and Tennessee are not,
if there's
the greatest thing since sliced bread.
If there's ever a team that's captain of the recency bias boat, it's the Ohio State Buckeyes. Lord have mercy.
Yeah, isn't that true?
Yeah. Those are the semis, and then obviously the national championship game could be a rematch from earlier this season. If it is Ohio State Penn State, we watched that game earlier and see what happens.
I know a lot of people, I guess maybe this is a little bit of Big Ten bias, because I know nationally a lot of people are like, don't want to see that game. That was a good game. Penn State had it and effectively gave it away at the end with just a horrible series of plays, inside the Ohio State 5. And, that Penn State has kind of proven that they may be the team that can give Ohio State the best game. I know a lot of people don't want to see a conference rematch, but whatever. I mean, again,
hey, you know what?
Let's just see some great football.
We've seen conference rematches in the national championship, in years past. Georgia, Alabama, it happens a lot, a lot more than I'd like. But it's not like
one thing I'd say, my personal opinion. I mean, if I'd swap Texas out for Oregon. But aside from that, I think we have 3 of the 4 best teams in the country are alive right now. I think these are three of the best, and I think we're probably going to get some good games here and some really good football.
I hope so. Definitely hope so. Anything else to mention before we get out here tonight?
One thing that I just happened to see, Eye on the Spring. I saw the list of softball national 100 player rankings. Kansas Robinson coming in at 40th in the nation. Kelsey Nader coming in at 80th. That's again. This is where we always have to stop and remind you just how frigging big softball is in this country and how huge a deal it is to have 2 players of that caliber. And frankly, I think we all know that the Cats have a lot of other players knocking on that list as well. So just one more eye towards Northwestern's incredible spring sports.
Get out to Welsh Ryan on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cats against Spartans. Support this team. Give them your all. They need it.
Yeah, let's make that atmosphere as electric as possible because, wow, and with Gus Johnson in the house, I mean, we could get some magic in there. That'd be awesome. So with that, we'll go ahead and leave it there for tonight. Head to our website, westlawpirates.com, where you can leave comments and questions. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, all at Westlaw Pirates, and you can always email the show, westlawpirates@gmail.com. Tune in next time as we give our visceral and statistical views on Northwestern athletics. And look for us in the west lot of Ryan Field flying the red pirate flag, because we give no quarter, especially the fourth. For John Lacombe and Eric Scasbo, I'm Sam Walter. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.